Well, hello there, my lovely. How are you? I hope you are having a great start to your day, wherever it is that you are. Last session, I told you that we were going to be reverting to once per month coaching corner conversations. I changed my mind. We're gonna carry on with our weekly cadence, and I'm really excited about that because I've got so many strong, powerful topics to talk to you about this year, and we're going to keep going with our weekly rhythm, your coaching corner sessions with me, your coach Sabrina Militello. I am the founder of Empower Her Coaching, and I'm here to help you elevate your life outside of the stuckness, the overthinking, the procrastinating, the perfectionism, the self-doubt. Help you really gather all of those things and move forward in the direction you want to go to call in the life that you most desire. So today we're going to talk about why motivation fails and how to build your momentum, how to truly move forward with power, not relying on the traditional way of thinking of motivation or willpower or whatever it is that you want to call it, right? Motivation fails because we see it. Let's start with talking about what motivation is, right? When people talk about not having motivation, that's not actually accurate. The word motivation comes from the word motive. And you have to have a motive. Everyone has a motive for doing anything. So even when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you have a motive behind that. There's motivation behind that, right? Can you see what I'm saying? So say, for example, you have an intention of working out 5 days a week. That's one of the goals that you set for yourself for the year. I'm going to work out 5 days a week because I've got this particular goal that I'm striving for. You had a particular motivation behind you. There was a motive, there was a reason why you set that goal. But when it comes to it, you may find that you don't show up. You maybe show up 3 days a week or even 2 days a week, or you go a whole week without doing a workout and you'll say to yourself, I lost motivation. No, you didn't. You had a motive, a reason for why you didn't show up. There was still motivation behind why you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So when we say I'm lacking motivation, it's not actually accurate in the way that we're thinking it is. There's always a reason why we do or do not do what we do. There's always a reason behind our actions. There's always a motive behind our actions. So the better thing to say is, I've lost motivation to do that, right? Because if you're not doing the things that you know you should be doing, there's a bigger motivation to not do them. There's a bigger reason that's coming in to not do them. Does that make sense? So now that we've got that out of the way, we have an understanding of what motivation is. The reason why our motivation to take that particular action fails, there's a couple of things that are going on, and I'm going to talk to you high level. I'm going to give you some frameworks and some high level teachings. I want you to take notes. I want you to share some nuggets, some things that really resonate with you. I've got some notes here next to me so that I stay on task. But I've got 4 main areas from which to tackle this question of why does my motivation fail me? Why do I stop showing up to do X, Y, and Z thing? And hopefully in the understanding of that, you'll be able to rewrite, repattern, and go ahead and do the things that you most want to do for the future that you want to call in. You with me? All right, so the first thing that I want us to talk about is when you're saying I'm lacking motivation to do X, Y, and Z thing, is X, Y, and Z thing truly connected to the future vision that you have? Let me explain that. We have to design our habits and design our actions so that they align with the future that we're wanting to call in. We have to design the actions that we're committing to take with the future that we want, the future identity that we want to step into. So if the goals that you set or the actions that you've said, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna do that thing, are they truly aligned with where it is that you want your life most to go? Because one of the things that I've noticed in the coaching sessions that I do, my one-on-one programming, the Inevitable Woman coaching program, with my group coaching clients, and then in my own journey, as well as observing humanity and how human beings behave, is that we have to be moving towards a compelling future. That's something that Brendan Burchard talks about a lot. What is the compelling future that we're moving towards? And if we're not clear about what it is that we're wanting most, then we fall into ways of being and just habits and things that we do and ways that we show up that are just like getting through the day. We're in survival mode, we're kind of just meandering and kind of plodding along, and we get caught into doing certain things in certain ways just because that's the way that we fell into it, not in a directional way, not in an intentional way, not with true purpose and presence. So I want you to ask yourself, and maybe take some time to journal or notebook on this. Have I designed habits, the things that I've set goals for this year, the things that maybe I'm saying my motivation is failing me on, are they designed so that they align with the future identity that I want to call in, or the future lifestyle, reality that I want to create? That's question number one. And it's truly important when you're kind of answering that to then have your next step. So you gave yourself the answers to that question. Maybe the answer is no. The habits or the goals that I've set have just been arbitrary things that I know I should do, but I haven't really connected them to what I want most. I want you to ask yourself a couple of things, right? One, what do you need to start doing? When you get clear about the future that you want, the woman that you want to become, what do you need to start doing? Number one. Number two, what do you need to stop doing? What do you need to start doing? What do you need to stop doing? For most of us, this is very clear, right? It's very clear that if we want to call in good health, we need to stop binge eating and binge drinking every single weekend, right? If you know that you want to call in more financial abundance, maybe we need to stop sporadic spending and just emotional spending and kind of mindless spending. So it's, for most of us, it's very clear what we need to stop doing, right? And then question number three is, what do you need to continue doing? Because I'm sure that you do have some great habits, some great routines, some things that you do on a regular basis that are actually aligned with where it is that you want to go. And I don't want you to lose that. I don't want you to lose your connection to that. So what do you need to start doing? Give yourself three things. What do you need to stop doing? Again, three things. And what do you need to continue doing? Again, three things, right? And then bonus, when are you gonna do these things by? When are you gonna start doing these things? When are you gonna stop doing these things? And what does your routine look like to continue doing the things that are working? So that's part number one of why motivation is failing you. Get some clarity around the habits that you've designed and whether or not they align with where it is that you want to go, and then repattern that, right? Repattern that so that it is aligned. With me? Okay. Part number two about why motivation fails you. I want to talk about a neuroscientific concept called neuroplasticity. And you've probably heard that word. I know that I've coached on it. My coaching clients are very familiar with this term because I talk about it a lot. And it basically refers to the brain's ability to rewire new neural networks. And what I mean by new neural networks, when we create habits, there's pathways in our brain that are carved in, right? So for example, have you ever got into your car at the end of your workday and driven home and you haven't even remembered part of that drive? It was just a habit. You just did it. You knew where to turn off. You knew when to stop. You knew what signal to give, and you weren't present in the act of driving, as terrible as that might seem, because it's just such an ingrained habit and thing that you do. It's just an ingrained pattern. So you do it almost on autopilot. That is an example of a neural network that has been carved in to your brain function, in layman's terms, right? So a lot of us think that we say things like, that's just the way that I am. That's just the way that it is. There's nothing that I can do about that. When it comes to our personality, when it comes to our creativity, when it comes to our capability in certain areas, we put a cap by thinking that's just how it is. No, that's just the pattern you've practiced. That's just the neural pathway that has been carved in through repetition. So the brain actually has a phenomenal ability to create new neural pathways and replace old ones. So when it comes to not lacking this motivation or your motivation failing you, is it because it's become so ingrained in you that you can do this, you can't do this? And so when it becomes hard to kind of pattern this new habit that you're trying to create, or to go after this new thing that requires you to learn new skills and be better at your approach, you hit that barrier of it being difficult, of it not being autopilot, where you actually have to put energy and intentionality into it. And you think, oh, that's an indication that this isn't for me and it's not possible for me. That's not the case. All that's happening is that your brain is trying to carve in this new neural network to make it as autopilot as possible for you. And you're just coming up against resistance in the natural process of what it takes to wire that pattern in. Does that make sense? I want you to think about, my thought came in and then I wanted to finish my thought and it went out again. Just know that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not possible for you. You hit in that resistance of trying to implement this new habit and this new pattern just means that the brain is doing what it's supposed to do, because this was the thought that I was trying to catch. Our brains are designed, or they're kind of wired in a way where they want to use up as little energy as possible, which is why we carve in these kind of habitual patterns and these autopilot ways of doing things, so that the brain doesn't have to use a ton of energy. That drive home from work, your brain can kind of switch into that autopilot mechanism. So it's not using a ton of energy to get you from A to B, because that's a pattern that you run on a daily basis. So you trying to wire in a new one, of course, that's going to take time. You're going to hit that resistance because your brain actually has to use energy to create that new neural network, that new pathway, which is not its favorite thing to do. So it will want to hold on to your old ways of being, your old patterns, because it's easier, right? It's easier for you to function by using less energy. So just stick with it. Stick with the hard of carving in these new habits, these new rituals, these new routines. And that feeling of my motivation is failing me, it could be related to just the harder process of making these new habits a default setting for you. Okay? So that gives you a little bit of education around what's going on in very layman's terms. I'm not an expert at any of this stuff, but I do study human function and brain function and psychology at quite an in-depth level. So I always try to bring you these learnings to help you get a better understanding of what is going on in here, so that you can stop saying to yourself that I'm not capable, this isn't possible for me, there's something wrong here. Okay, so that's like part two of this training about why your motivation is failing you. Part number 3 is about identity. And our last session, when it came to, we were talking about boundaries, was very identity laden, right? And I want to continue that, but talk about it from a slightly different perspective. And again, my coaching clients hear this terminology or this example a lot. And I want to give you the example of a thermostat, right? So our identity is tied to who we believe ourselves to be. And one of the things that I know to be true is that you will never outwork who you believe yourself to be. You can never out hustle who you believe yourself to be. You can never outperform who you believe who you believe yourself to be, or what you believe yourself to be capable of. That's the grind, that's the hustle, that's the kind of pushing against your flow state. That's what that looks like, because you're trying to do or perform beyond who you see yourself as. And one of the fundamental pieces of our nature as human beings is that we always act in congruence to how we see ourselves. And so when I'm talking about why your motivation may be failing you, perhaps it's because your identity hasn't yet caught up to the actions that you're trying to take, because you still see yourself as somebody who does not succeed in taking those kinds of actions. And the thermostat example I'll give you is, say you've got an internal thermostat, and everybody does have this internal thermostat setting. And say, for example, your thermostat is set to 70 degrees, right? When you're doing things that take you into the 80 degree, 90 degree, 95 degree set point, your body will kind of, you'll get there, you'll start doing things. Maybe you're on a diet, and for 3 weeks you've been going for it, you've been doing really good, you're saying no, you're resisting the cravings, you're staying committed to the diet, you're operating at like 95 degrees, you're going for it. At some point, your body, your identity will always pull you back to your 70 degree setting. And I know you've experienced this. Those 3 weeks on that diet, 3 weeks of your nutrition plan and your workout routine, you're killing it. Then one day, your spouse will say, how about we have pizza night? And you're like, yeah, I've been doing so good. Let's have pizza night. And pizza night turns into pizza and cookies, turns into pizza and a bottle of wine, turns into pizza and that bottle of wine and cookies and that box of chocolates, which turns into the next day making not great choices. And then the next day, and then it's the weekend and we've got that party, so I might as well. And then a week later, you realize, what on earth happened? I've just YOLO'd my face off for the last 7 days, completely undid that good rhythm that I was in. What happened? Unbeknownst to you, your internal identity setting got uncomfortable at the 95 degrees that you're operating at, and it kicked in and pulled you back to 70 degrees. The same also happens on the other end of the scale, right? Where you operate at 70 degrees, and I'm going to continue with this healthy kind of lifestyle example, and the holidays come. You've got Halloween, we've got Thanksgiving, we've got Christmas, we've got the New Year. Like, there's a 2-month area of our calendar where there's 4 kind of occasions that people are just like, well, screw it, I might as well just go for the whole 2 months. It's a total of maybe 6 days, but we're just gonna screw the whole 2 months over. I don't know why we think like that, but that period of time comes along and you're eating all the things, drinking all the things, not prioritizing your sleep. Like, there's more stress because you're around family members that you have to deal with and all of that. And you start operating, your body is starting to move at like a 50 degree setting. You're maybe hitting 45 degrees. And one day you get on the scale and you look at the number and you're like, holy bejesus, no way. Your identity setting of 70 degrees kicks in and you clean up, right? You start doing the things you're supposed to do. You start cleaning up your eating, you start cleaning up your drinking, you start sleeping better, you start managing your stress better, and you get yourself back to that 70 degree set point. So it happens on both ends of the scale. But what essentially is going on is that we all have this internal guidance system, if you want to put it that way, this identity that is ingrained, and our behaviors can never stray too far away from that setting. So it's not about forcing yourself to do more when your motivation is failing you. It's about changing, improving, increasing, up-leveling that internal set point. So you have to take yourself from a 70 degreeer to an 80, 85 degreeer, 90 degreeer, 100 degreeer. You have to align it with what it is that you're trying to do, the actions you're trying to take, the opportunities you're trying to call in, the level of income or impact or service that you're wanting to bring into your life, the quality of relationships, the level of health. Your internal setting has to shift to be aligned with somebody that prioritizes those things. So your motivation may be failing you because your identity hasn't yet caught up with the actions that you're taking. So that's number 3, right? Number 4, I want to talk to you about how we go about the changes that we're wanting to make. So if your motivation is failing you, I want you to ask yourself, or I want you to look around and find somebody who has achieved what it is that you're wanting to achieve. Whether it's weight loss, whether it's income, whether it's a level of success in whatever area of life, maybe it's the quality of their marriage, maybe it's their skill at parenthood, maybe it's how well they serve their community, how faith-based they are. Like whatever it is, look for somebody in your area. It could be a close person to you. It could be somebody that you know long distance. You don't have to have a personal connection with this individual, but just really look for somebody who has achieved something that you want to achieve in your life. And then I know you've heard this phrase before, success leaves clues. I know you've heard that, but I want us to talk about it in a slightly different way. Yes, I do believe that success leaves clues, but I don't necessarily believe that we have to do what that person is doing, exactly what that person is doing in order to achieve the success that they've achieved. And listen to me when I say this, right? If you've ever entered an entrepreneurial space, maybe you've tried to start a business, maybe you've tried to start a side hustle, maybe you've tried a hobby or whatever, and you try and do, like there's so many gurus out there or leaders or coaches or mentors out there that will tell you, do exactly this because that's how I got this exact result. And we get pulled in to the notion that if I do exactly what they did, I will get exactly the result that they get. And how has that worked out for you? I did this for a long stretch of my professional career a few years ago, and it did not serve me well at all. It did not serve me well at all. So I looked at this idea of success leaves clues, and I decided to approach it in a different way that actually did serve me much better. And I understand that I'm saying if you do this like I did it, then you're going to get this result. But I think you'll understand how overarching it is when I explain it to you. So instead of focusing on what the person does, I want you to think about how they do it. Not what they do, how they be. So the person that you're thinking about that has achieved this level of success that you're striving for, what kind of energy do they walk in? What kind of energy do they bring to what they do? What level of belief in themselves, in the future that they're working towards, underlies what they're doing? What level of belief underlies what they're doing? And what kind of spark or magic do they operate with? Do they have a certain je ne sais quoi? Do they have a certain level of they're magnetic, or they're charismatic, they're confident? There's something about them, a certain spark that they walk in. And I want you to emulate those things. Not what they do, the energy with which they do it, the belief that underlies it, and the magic and spark that they walk in. the energy that they do what they do with, the level of belief that underlies it, and the magic and the spark that they walk in. Emulate those things. Those are the clues that their success lives. It's less about what they do, and it's more about how they be in the doing of the things. So think about that. If your motivation is failing you to go out there and work on that business, build that side hustle, get better at that hobby, whatever that thing is, I want you to look at the people that have achieved what you've achieved. Maybe you do have long distance mentors or close mentors. Maybe you do have a coach or a community of people that are striving for the same thing as you. And there's somebody that stands out as the person that, they're just getting it. What energy do they bring to what they're doing? What level of belief do they have in their capability to do it? And what magic, that extra are they carrying? That's the success. That's the clue that their success is leaving. So I really want you to talk about, think about this in one umbrella term. So we covered these 4 pieces, and the umbrella that covers all of them is habits that are rooted in who you really are. Habits, behaviors, ways of being, ways of thinking, ways of believing that are rooted in who you really are and who it is that you're really wanting to become. So next time you think my motivation is failing me, I want you to look at these 4 buckets and then the overarching theme of, am I walking, talking, behaving in a way that is aligned with who I most want to be? When we can get to the bottom of that, I'm not motivated no longer becomes a thing. It honestly doesn't, because you're so clear about the compelling future that you're working towards, and the things that you've put in place to get you there are so aligned that I don't really feel like it today is no longer a barrier for you. Yes, you're going to have days where you don't really feel like it, but you're going to show up anyway because you're so rooted in everything that you're doing. It's so aligned and it feels so right. And that's all I have for you today. I hope that served you powerfully. I know that was framework heavy and it was very actionable, and I'm not apologizing for that, because I think we do need to have those kinds of conversations regularly. And I really hope that something in here gave you like a aha or a moment of clarity that will help you start to show up differently, because it's not about motivation, it's about your identity. All right. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. Maybe consider subscribing to this channel. I would love that. Share with me in the comments what you got out of this, what one of those 4 really stuck out to you, and what you're going to do with it. That's my biggest joy, is knowing that what I'm sharing with you is serving you powerfully by telling me what it is that you're going to shift or adjust or change in your life to help you move forward. Until next time.